Thank you so much for coming here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me.
You could hear people in the audience were already singing along.
Oh, I know, it's so good.
You know, I want to start off by saying I literally have not stopped listening to this song since it came out. It really blew me away because I think I was expecting maybe something different, but this is a really new sound for you. We kind of know you as this pop rock girl, shout out Guilty Pleasure. And, you know, this is a new era. So tell me about your journey with the song and why you chose this to be your lead single.
Yeah, you know, when I got back into the studio, for the last 4 years, I've been trying to find what sound I wanted to do on an album. But there was like no rush for me. I wasn't like going to just put out an album just to put out one. And it kind of came at the perfect timing of what I was recently kind of going through. And obviously, as you guys know, my album Symptoms is about my journey through anxiety and depression. And Voices in My Head was just one of the songs that I feel like really kind of sets the tone for the album. The album is all upbeat and it's pop with some electronic feel to it. And I'm just really proud of it. I think the album itself and the music stand on its own. It's really good. But I think that it's different for me because of how personal it is, and I co-wrote every single song on the album. So this has just been a different experience from my last 2 albums.
Yeah, I mean, so you've worked pretty consistently on screen over the last decade, but you've taken a bit of a step back, especially with music. So was that sort of a conscious choice to be more selective about who and what you give your energy to?
I don't know if it was just a choice. It was just more like I kind of took a step back from the music business and I was just really involved in a lot of stuff. I do so much that I feel like the universe really helps kind of guide me in a way that's like, okay, now it's your production time. Okay, now it's your time to be on TV. And it like really, I just kind of go with it. And, you know, I love music. Music is a passion of mine, and I missed it. And there was, I think, a little bit of like, I had this thing about fear of failure. And so I think that kept me away from, and like my experience through my last album, you know, whenever I would go to perform, I would have really bad like panic attacks before I'd perform. So I really didn't like going through that a lot. And I was just like, well, if I'm constantly like, that's all about performing. And if I'm constantly feeling that way, like, let's just not do it. And so it really was like, I was going through this self-help book recently that there was a chapter about there is no such thing as failure. We all go through ups and downs. And so once I let go of those fears, it's literally what got me back into the studio. And then I felt like creatively free. And then I was like, not like, you know, stopping myself from doing what I actually really wanted to do. So I'm really excited.
I think I can speak on behalf of the fans that we're so glad that you took that time for yourself, and self-care is so important.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what we need to do, everyone, right?
Yeah.
You know, when I sort of think, when the single dropped, it made me sort of realize something about you, that perhaps you've been like a bit unfairly pegged or pigeonholed to like one type of artist when there's actually like a lot of different sides to you because of like the iconic roles that you've played. And I was wondering, have you felt like it's ever at any point challenging to sort of distinguish yourself apart from the expectations of what you should be like, what you should sound like, what you should look like?
I think that definitely I think there is this like kind of expectation that I'm a certain way because I've played a character, and so people really love to see me around pink, and they like love to see me being like, I don't know, like in their mind, like what my character from High School Musical would be like, and it's just so opposite of me. And I think that I also really have kept a very like private life, and I don't really share a lot that's super personal. But I feel like this is the first time that people will get to know who I am based off of my journey. And this is like the first time I've been really like, you know, kind of being super vulnerable and letting it out there, which is really scary because I'm like, oh gosh, like, I hope I don't let people down of what they think. But at the same time, I'm like, I just have to be me, and that's okay. And if like they love it, that's great. If they don't, whatever, you know? So it's just like one of those things where I definitely think that, yeah, in the past, I felt like I had to keep up with some expectation, but I've kind of been like, you know what, this is who I am, and that's me.
I mean, that must be so empowering to really sort of like take control of your narrative. In this moment of your life, you said you co-wrote all of the songs. It's sort of a different tone than working in like the big music industry machine, right?
Yeah, I definitely, in the past, I was with a bigger label, and it was more about, having certain writers on your record. Even if there were some songs I didn't really like or didn't really relate to, it was just like it had to be on the record. And so, signing with the indie label that I'm with, they've just let me be so creatively free. Like, I mean, they are so supportive. I mean, down to like the artwork, everything has been my idea, to the music video. I pretty much DM'd the director on Instagram, and I was like, I love your work and I want to work with you. Like, everything, this is all mine. And it's just like a personal, super personal thing. So, it's like a piece of me. It's like, I would say it's the most authentic thing I've ever done in my career.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as communicated, you can feel that in the sound. You mentioned, you've kept a pretty sort of private profile over the years, and this song is so emotionally vulnerable. You make yourself so emotionally vulnerable about anxiety and depression, and I really just want to commend you for that, because we need people with influence to jumpstart conversations about mental health and like really fight that stigma. So, you said it's like giving a piece of you over to the public. Has that been an emotional journey in itself?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like emotional. I think I cried on Access Hollywood yesterday. And I'm like, oh God. But it's like, yeah, it's emotional. You're like really letting yourself out there. But, I just think that for a long time, it was just something that, this is kind of like a perfect example. This picture means a lot to me because so everybody has like their favorite side of their face, and mine is my left side. And so I remember the photographer being like, okay, cool, now you're gonna sit this direction. And I was like, oh gosh, I hate that side of my face. And I stopped my thought process and I was like, wait, hold on. I was like, but this whole album is not showing a beautiful side of you. It's actually showing something that's really real and raw, which is my anxious and depressive side. And so I was just like, I have to, like, no matter what, I don't care. I'm showing this side. And when I look at this picture after, I was like, wow, it's a really beautiful picture. And it's actually a really beautiful side, even though at first it could be like, I don't like that side of myself. I was just like, wow, it's a really beautiful side of myself. And so I think that like the anxiety and the depression and like all of that stuff really makes me who I am. And I think that's beautiful.
I love that, embracing that and like practicing that self-love in real time. I didn't know that about the album cover. I think that it means so much more now.
Yeah.
I really resonated with this song. It helped me quiet some voices in my own head last week. And I know sort of the fan response has been really kind of, it's an outpouring of support for you.
I know.
So what has it been like? What have you heard from your fans who maybe have seen you in a different era, now have grown up with you and kind of arrived at this moment with you?
Well, they're just like connecting with me on a different level, I think. They're just talking about what they're going through, and there's a lot of fans that have been saying like, this has helped me so much. I'm going through anxiety, or I've gone through depression. I've had friends of mine that are actively in my life text me and say that they are going through it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're like, keep doing what you're doing. And it's just so supportive and so amazing. I mean, I didn't really have any expectations. Like, I wasn't kind of releasing the single and was like, oh my gosh, I really hope this does well. I mean, obviously you like hope it does well, but I guess for me, I was just like, I'm so proud of this record, and I'm so proud of it that like, to me, it's already a success, because it's just like, I don't really ever get super proud of myself. I'm very hard on myself, and I'll watch like a movie I was in, or I'll watch a TV show and I'm like, ooh, I could have done that better. Like, what was I thinking there? But I came away from this experience being like, wow, not only did I emotionally get through something and get myself out of something, but I also like created this, which is, I don't know, I just was really proud of myself.
No, you should be. What kind of messages would you want to communicate to a fan, someone who's really in the midst of their struggle with anxiety and depression? Like, what were coping mechanisms or self-care tips that you sort of utilize in your own life?
Well, I meditate a lot. I meditate every single morning, and that really helps me to stay present. Also, I do a lot of I'm a naturalist, so I do a lot of self-help books, and I did a self-help book that really, really helped my anxiety and get me through and out of depression, which was Attacking Anxiety and Depression by Lucinda Bassett. It's like a 14-week thing, and I do it every morning. That was really good. But also, I tend to, in like situations where I'm having anxiety, I'll distract myself by playing Candy Crush, like, you know, spending tons of money on Candy Crush. And then, yeah, I just think that, you know, I would say the biggest thing is communicating how you're, like, what you're going through to anybody. I think that the scariest part is that in those moments you kind of isolate yourself and you really feel alone, and that's where it's kind of stemming from. But I would say if you could just reach out to like a close friend, someone you trust, anybody, and tell them what you're going through, like, I think you'll realize that there's someone else that's going through it as well, and you are able to get through it. You know, like, I think that it's just the perspective. And so, you know, really me coming out and talking about this is because I really want to start the conversation and to not make, you know, the word depression so like powerful. You know, anxiety, we all kind of like are like, yeah, we have anxiety, but like with depression, I don't think a lot of people want to raise their hand when they go through something like that. So I just feel like, you know, let's just start the conversation, and let's, like, it's okay. Like, it's totally okay that we talk about these things, and don't feel bad about it, because we're all human.
Yes, can we get a round of applause for that? I love that. You know, when you look back at sort of the High School Musical days, I'm curious, like, what sort of voices were in your head back then, and how, like, how those sort of like internal conversations shifted or developed since then?
I think I was very unaware. I lived in like a bubble, like a Disney bubble. And I was just like, I mean, I don't know. I really get wrapped up into characters when I play characters. And part of what I love about acting is that I'm playing someone else other than myself. So I really dive into those things. But yeah, at that time, it was all kind of like bubblegum and pink and like Disney. And I lived in this kind of bubble. And I was like, you know, like I don't know. It just like feels like another lifetime ago. I'm sure I had definitely anxiety, but I wasn't aware of my anxiety until 2 years ago. And then I fully became like, I had a panic attack and I knew what that was. But like before then, I think I had it, like, obviously anxiety attacks like during guilty pleasure and stuff. But I don't know. I can't specifically remember anything back then. But yeah, I mean, the voices in my head are always going to be like, you know, I don't know, just self-doubt and kind of negative thinking and assumptions. Like, I assume a lot, which is like one of the 4 agreements you shouldn't do, and I definitely do. I've gotten better though, but yeah, that's what voices in my head is about, is like stopping those thoughts and, you know, knowing there was like one thing that I read that was really beautiful, and I like cried when I read it, but it was just like, you are enough. You know, like, I've been in the business for so long, since I was 3, constantly working, thinking that that is what makes me enough, but it really isn't. Like, it's just being who you are. That is all you have to be, and you are enough. Anything else that you want to do besides that, that's amazing. You know, like, that's even better. But like, you just being you, and that really resonated with me. I was like, whoa, that's so powerful. So yeah, I think that like we just kind of forget that sometimes.
No, that's such a great sentiment to sort of like take with you in practice.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't need those Instagram followers.
no, no. You know, I have interviewed a couple sort of like teen child stars, and sometimes people have a really difficult relationship with the roles that made them sort of household names. Like, do you look back fondly on Maddie and Sharpay?
Oh, yeah.
Or, you know, has it been some tension there?
No, I'm so grateful for that experience. I'm so grateful for playing those roles. Like, at that time in my life, that was like what I wanted to do. I was like, I need to be on Disney. And so I was like so down. And yeah, I mean, like, the stuff and the places we got to go and tour with High School Musical was so awesome. So I'm very grateful for that. And I know I wouldn't be where I am without that. So I'm not like, you know, it definitely has been hard coming out of it. And like, you know, I think that people think of me as that character. And so it's like hard with acting. I have to work extra hard to get the jobs that I get. But I still don't kind of resent it. I'm like, I love what I did back then. And I'm like very proud of it.
Yeah, I mean, you were in like the pantheon, right, of these great 2000s era teen stars alongside Lindsay and Hillary. And, you know, in that moment, did you feel like, oh, I'm part of this right now? Or were you sort of in the weeds, too busy and focused on your career at the time?
I don't know. I mean, I think that like when you're going through something like that, it's specifically that kind of moment, like with those movies, like we all just weren't even expecting that. So we kind of like, it was living in a bubble. Like we were just like, whoa, like there's a lot of people that love this movie. Like we had no idea. So I guess I just wasn't really thinking about like I was also so busy. I was like doing The Sweet Life and High School Musical and recording an album and also doing Phineas and Ferb at the same time, which is a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, God. Before we go to audience Q&A, I need to talk about your 2000s fashions because I don't think
it was
anyone
off the hook.
has slayed a red carpet since then to that level.
No.
Can we bring that
and
back?
pull off that confidence? But I mean,
I want to see you rocking like the shirt and the jeans and the loose tie.
I mean, the loose tie. Wait, what was that?
Like sort of like the loose like.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that was a Maddie costume. I don't know about that. I definitely remember a boa. I remember a sleeping mask. I remember a Thou Shalt Spend t-shirt. And yeah. I mean, I killed it. I wore Uggs on the red carpet, you guys.
True bravery. I love it.
I know. Man, I love that chick.
Okay, let's turn it over to audience Q&A.
Hi.
So I just want to say, as somebody who's battled with anxiety and depression, this song really did resonate, and I'm so happy that somebody's writing this, I guess. But my question is, where did you find the strength to come out about these issues? Because I know a lot of people deal with them, but they never really talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of it, my husband is really great. He's a real great rock in my life, and he's so supportive and has helped me through everything. But I think it was just like, I don't know. I just think that there's been, we've lost a lot of people. I lost my A&R last year, Tommy Page, to depression. And so I think it was just like something in me that's just like driving me to do it. And like, I know I have to, because I feel like I don't know. There's just like something in me that's just like, I have to do this. But it's still emotional because it's still so like, it's still hard. But I definitely think over the years of being in the business, I definitely am a strong person. And so I'm like, okay, if I got to start talking about my personal experience to help someone else out, like that's all I can do as a person and as an artist. And I think that that's really where it's coming from. But I remember the first time I talked about the album at this Create and Cultivate panel, and I had mentioned what the album was about, and seeing it in writing on a blog about like how I mentioned depression. The next morning I was like crying, and I was like telling my husband, I'm like, oh my God, it's like people have written about it, and I'm like talking about it, and he's like, well, this is what you want to do, right? Because you're like wanting to take the stigma out of depression, but yet you're crying. You're like doing the opposite. I'm like, I know. It's just so hard. Sometimes you see it and you're like, okay, here we go. Like, but yeah, I think that it's just like, I just want to help people, and I want them to, I don't know. I think that there's a drive in me, and I really want, especially when it goes back to the record. It's like, I think the music stands on its own, but I think that, the record is really just fun, and I want someone to like turn it on when they're feeling like they're having a bad day and like feel good, I just want to make people feel good. Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, Ashley. Michael
Hi.
David. I just want to say, we've all been watching you literally our whole lives. So you've played such confident roles, and I think that really inspired us and resonated in us. So now the fact that you're going into such deep stuff with your emotions and anxiety, that's so inspiring. So thank you again for that. And now, on this album, obviously it was so hard to write. What song, other than Voices in My Head, probably stuck out to you that was either most important to write, or something that maybe you struggled writing, just to like let yourself be so vulnerable in that way?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, thank you. Let me think. I would have to say, it's interesting. Like they came pretty fast. Nothing was really difficult to write, which I think is also a good sign, because I feel like that's when it's naturally going in the right direction. I would say, though, oh, man. I don't want to, like, let out too many songs yet. I know I've let out a couple already, but I would say probably, like, nothing is a ballad. So nothing was really, like, what I've done with the album is that they are symptoms. Each song is a symptom of anxiety and depression, but it's not really technically about that. You know, it's not like I'm more taking a song like Under Pressure. That one is definitely about like feeling pressure and stuff, but it's more about like shaking it off. And I try to like not give any of the, you know, songs any power for each of those. I don't know how to explain it without obviously you guys listening, but it's definitely not something where I had any difficulty writing. It just came and it like, I mean, it just naturally all happened. So there was not one specific song that's like, you know, coming out. Like there's like, I don't know. They were all like, we would write a song every day. So it was very, I think more on the production side, I was very involved in that, which is really a first time for me. And I think for me, I just really wanted it to be more stripped down and not overproduced like my last 2 albums because of the message and because of what it's about. I felt like overall everything needs to be stripped down. So, yeah, that's a difficult question. I haven't thought. That's a good one.
You know, fans went crazy when you put that cover out with X's and O's with Vanessa Hudgens.
Oh, yeah.
Any chance we might get a Hudgens feature on this one?
Oh, no. There's no collaborations on this one. Obviously, what it's about, you know, is very specific. So there was not going to be any collaborations on this album because it's a personal journey that I'm going through.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Next question.
Hi.
Ashley, I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite song on the album?
Ooh, every song is so good. But I do have to say one that holds like a special place in my heart is Symptoms. It's a song itself. And that was the first song that I co-wrote the first day I was in the studio, which is about actually commitment issues. And when I first met my husband, I knew he was the one, but I was like, had been in such bad relationships before. I was like, oh gosh, like it felt so different. I was like, I don't know about this. And so Symptoms is really about like when you know the person is right, but then you're like having every single symptom of why you can't be in it. So yeah, that's one I really love.
Been there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to let you go, but everyone make sure to stream Voices
Yes.
in My Head and pick up Symptoms when it comes out. Let's give it up for Ashley.
Thank you.